move on to the second motion of notice, and it is to turn the street lights back on at night in Warwickshire. And I invite Councillor Fojtik, the proposer of this motion. Councillor Fojtik.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've had some discussions over the last few days and have accepted a friendly motion on this, on which I'd like to propose. And I believe that'll probably be coming up on the screen from council officers.
Certainly, that was my hope and intention, and it is now on the screen. Thank you. It may not be that easy to read, so as I've been handed a paper copy, I'll read it out if I may. Following the murder of London woman Sarah Everard, a nationwide movement for safer streets has erupted. This movement has reached all corners of the country, including the Stratford District and Warwickshire. Sadly, Bidford-on-Avon has also been part of the news story, with the report of an attack on a woman by a male serving West Midlands police officer. This story in London and the personal experiences of Chloe Fojtik wanting to feel safe on our streets in Stratford resulted in her wanting to take action. Chloe started a petition asking how safe people feel on our streets at night when the street lights went out. The response was astonishing. As of the 1st of April, 3,462 people had signed her petition to turn the street lights back on in Warwickshire. Over 50 women have responded with personal confidential stories of attacks on them. Most stories have not been reported to the police. This council supports the call for safer streets across our district so that women and men can feel safe going about their daily lives. Stratford is, of course, also a world-renowned tourist destination, and we also want our national and international visitors to feel equally safe. Street lighting is a part, but not the only component of creating safer streets, and this council should work with the Warwickshire County Council and those parish and town councils that operate street lighting in many of our main rural centres and villages to develop a strategy to address safety and the fear of crime, while at the same time recognising both the climate change impacts of street lighting and the wider benefits for nature of dark skies policies, such as that in Welford-on-Avon's neighbourhood development plan, in a way that respects the needs and the wishes of all of our diverse communities. This council also recognises that good design in planning plays a part, and that the portfolio holder for place ensures that safer streets are enshrined as a component of our new South Warwickshire plan, noting that Stratford-on-Avon District Council planning officers already consult with Warwickshire Police on current planning applications. This council also requests that the portfolio holder for community safety raises this issue at the next crime panel to agree a strategy with Warwickshire Police to support safer streets across this district. By taking this multi-agency approach, Stratford-on-Avon District Council will be more effective in lobbying stakeholders to address this urgent issue so that all residents, particularly women, can feel safe going from and to work, or from and a night out at any time during the night. That is the wording of what I understand is the friendly amendment to the original, and I possibly may have saved Councillor Fojtik from reading all that out himself. Councillor Fojtik, I pass it back to you if you wish to add anything to that which I've just read out, and then I'll be asking for a seconder of the amended proposal. Councillor Fojtik.
Thank you, Chair. So I'd just like to give councillors a couple of real life experiences of some women amongst nearly 50 who contacted my daughter Chloe Fojtik after starting a petition asking Warwickshire County Council to turn the streetlights back on, which as of today has nearly 4,000 signatures. The woman that contacted, one of the women that contacted Chloe says that 6 years ago I walked home on my own after 2 a.m. I'd never felt fear walking on my own until that night. I was walking home, and as soon as I turned the corner of my street, this man ran behind me and snatched my handbag. I had my passport, keys, purse, my whole adult young life in that bag. I ran back to see if I could find my bag thrown on the side of the road. The man was standing by the canal, emptying my belongings. I pled for my passport and keys. He kindly took £80 in cash and threw my bag back, not before asking me to have sex with him. I cried and begged just to be left alone. He left me alone in the end, and I got my handbag and passport and keys back. I was foolish for going after him and incredibly lucky, but it could have ended much worse. I then attempted twice to see somebody at the police station, but it was shut with no one around, so I gave up. And just one other experience of another woman that contacted Chloe Fojtik. At the end of a night out, I went to get a taxi, and there were none around, so I decided to walk home, which was probably just over a mile. As soon as I got out of town, all the lights were turned off. Walking home late at night is terrifying as it is. With no lights, it's 10 times worse. I ended up sprinting as much of the way home as I could, going the long way round to avoid alleyways. This is the reality of many women walking home at night. This motion, I hope, will go to make a start to make our streets safer, with better communication and actions between councils, police and our local communities. All night streetlights are an important factor for safer streets for some areas and for street safety. I mean, another suggestion that I've heard is lights can be dimmed earlier in the evening to allow all night lighting to fulfill sort of our environmental obligations as well. We have to remember it's not just about crime and crime figures, it's about how we feel when we're out on the streets, particularly at night. I'm hoping that the Warwickshire County Council can look at this motion to start a dialogue between stakeholders so that people can feel safer, whatever time it is, whether it's during the day or the middle of the night. And just one last point, and it's somebody that made a comment to me, and they just said to me, it's fairly obvious that we all feel safer walking when the lights are on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fojtik. I shall now call on Councillor Alcock to second this amended wording, and then after that has been seconded, I understand that what the council needs to do is to agree the approval of the amended wording prior to the opening of the debate. So, Councillor Alcock, I would actually come back to you after you've seconded it so that you can then speak to the amended wording once that amended wording has been formally approved. So, Councillor Alcock, if you'd like to second the amendment, which I assume is your wish.
Yes, it is, Chair. Thank you. I'm very happy to second the changing of the words.
Thank you very much indeed. Now, essentially, we've got a form of words before us. If anybody is anything against those words, please indicate in the chat. If they do not indicate an objection to that wording, then we will open the debate with that wording as being approved by the council, and I will go back to Councillor Alcock to open the debate. Nobody has indicated, so Councillor Alcock, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, I'm very happy to second this, and I was very grateful for Councillor Fojtik for inviting me to do so. This is something very close to my heart. I have been that woman walking home at night and have been scared. What am I scared of? I can hear footsteps. I phone my husband. I walk quicker. I go home. People have said, why aren't things reported 999? What do you report? You can report you felt scared, but you didn't see anybody. You couldn't hear anybody. It was because you were walking in the dark. This to me isn't just about people feeling safer. Men and women feel safer having the lights on. I've had it raised to me in these past 7 days actually, that many places, many homes have their own CCTV for security. They have cameras on their doorbells to help protect their property. These don't work as well when the streets are completely dark. And this was made apparent to one lady who unfortunately was subject to a dog theft. People broke into her home, took her dog. When she went to look at the cameras, it was too dark to see anything. And dog thefts are on the rise, as is antisocial behaviour in places, as is vandalism in places. Turning the lights off did a lot of good for the environment. Nobody's going to question that, but people should be questioning is, did turning the lights off made criminals feel safer and made people feel unsafe? It is time to turn the lights on. It is time to make sure that this discussion happens. We need to find a way to have the streets back to the people who work late at night, antisocial behaviours, antisocial hours. And in this town, especially in Stratford-upon-Avon and in my ward of Bishopton, there are a lot of them. They work at the theatre and they don't finish early. They work at the cinema, they don't finish early. Hospitality, the local, my local pub, the Squirrel, mentioned to me on Friday, it's really dark when we close. It is, and people had forgotten that in the lockdown. I would urge this council to agree to this motion. It is very important for a lot of residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alcock. Councillor Bromwich has indicated to speak. Councillor Bromwich.
Yeah, I think whenever I look at a proposal like this, I'm first of all reminded as somebody who in normal times pre-COVID with my DJing work obviously gets very used to coming home at very antisocial hours on this. So I actually see a lot of the various types of behaviours are actually mentioned when I tend to be journeying home. Now the question always crosses my mind, is this down to the street lights or is it other factors? And I think while streetlights are part of a factor, there is a lot of other factors, and we probably are going to start having to debate, not just at this council, across the country, about how do we get rid of the perception of fear and how do we make sure people feel safe going home. It's not an easy one. I can draw on one experience, for example, before the streetlights went off, where there was an alleged rape in Southam, which actually turned out not to be true, thank God, but all the parties involved and that, it was only for a bit of luck we attract, but that's with streetlights on. So these incidents happened beforehand, and they've happened since. Has there been an overall increase? Well, the statistics would say one thing, but the wordings would say another. And the biggest problem we face in this country today is that fear factor, which has come in over the years. And whether we are turning around saying turn streetlights back on, it needs to be as a big overarching project. And maybe what we should be looking at as a district council is not only just this motion put before us, but to start our own proper investigations onto what our ward members are really thinking as councillors. And maybe it's something we are going to have to debate as a full council on what those experiences are, which will probably be a novel thing, because I don't think we've ever done anything like that. But just to have a council meeting focusing on crime and the fear of crime and the fear of victims, and just general with our nighttime economy. It's not just Stratford that has that nighttime economy, it's the surrounding towns and villages throughout the whole district. Whether you're sitting there in Bishop's coming home from the Butcher's Arms when the lights gone off, or the bowling green at Southam, whatever, and that, it's across the board. And I think we need to start having these discussions. I understand why this motion has come before us, but I think it's a small part of a very big picture that probably at times as a council, we don't sometimes think, actually, we need to debate these a big issue properly and come to a consensus as a group of councillors on how we want to proceed of this. Motion's a start, but there's a big picture out there.
Thank you, Councillor Bromwich. Apologies to Councillor Juned. I think you may wish to make a statement on behalf of the Lib Dem group if it is this item. Councillor Juned.
Yes, I think all of us thank the mover for bringing this issue forward and for the amendment. Concern about women's safety has been at the forefront of the news agenda this year, but many of us have actually been committed to the need to protect women for many years, and we all need to be part of the solution. So I'm so pleased now that there are many saying that enough is enough and who want to be part of finding a solution and finding various solutions. Harassment on the street is part of a bigger problem. Last year, almost 2 women a week were killed by a current or former partner, and domestic abuse affects almost 1 in 3 women. Some women live in fear of some men's violence every day of their lives. The solutions are complex. Murder, abuse and harassment of women are not random and do not occur in a vacuum. They're part of everyday life for many, and we must continue to find solutions. As I said, those solutions are complex, but we can use our powers and the functions of the councils to help. For example, I do know that the various architect organisations have done much research on planning for safety and using the role of planning to encourage more safety within towns. And there are many other functions of the various councils that can be used to encourage and support women and make their lives safer, but also not just women, young people in general, and also men as well. We all need to feel a bit safer. I would also like to look at the County Council bringing forward and bringing back other organisations like youth organisations, youth clubs and youth movements. There's many complex ways to bring this forward, but this is a starter. This is a very welcome starter indeed about addressing women's safety, and I would recommend it, and we'll be supporting this motion as it's amended.
Thank you, Councillor Juned. Councillor Kettle next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I support the motion as revised, but I would just like to make a couple of points as portfolio holder of community safety, if I may, and just to feedback a little bit on some of the comments that have been made. Firstly, Warwickshire County Council keep 35% of their lights on all night. Lighting on public footpaths, alleyways and cycle paths fulfill the criteria for all night lighting. Lighting adjacent to operational taxi ranks, areas adjacent to elderly people's care homes, sheltered accommodation, AE departments, areas covered by permanent local authority police CCT cameras, and other potential hazard areas, roundabouts, junctions, central carriageway islands, etc. Further, Warwickshire County Council do work closely with Warwickshire Police, and if a risk area is identified and the police wish that to be relit, then that happens. I haven't got the details of where that is, but it is something which the County Council and the police work together to ensure. Perhaps hotspots is the wrong word, and I apologise if people take offence at that, but you understand hopefully what I mean. Stratford District Council itself, we are looking or applying under the Safer Streets campaign. We're bidding for funding from that, which again is looking to reduce crime, and clearly that includes the impact of lighting. But 2 things. One, the lighting goes off late at night and comes back on at 5:30 in the morning. And secondly, the group of people who suffer more on the streets is actually men, not women. So we have to look at the overall picture and ensure safer streets are there for everybody in the district and not just members of one or other and I'm wary of using, but I've used the word gender or sex, because clearly it is absolutely right that everybody should feel safe on the streets, and everybody should feel comfortable walking on the streets. So I support the motion as amended, but I think it is really important that we need, as others have said, to look at a global response. Sorry, I've just seen my camera isn't on. I apologise. We need a response, not global response, but a response to cover all aspects of safer streets, and that isn't just about lighting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kettle. The next councillor to speak, Councillor Pemberton.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and keep this brief because I see others want to speak, and we are moving around to 5:30. First of all, I'd like to thank Councillor Fojtik, or actually more importantly, Councillor Fojtik's daughter Chloe, who has done an enormous amount of work to raise the profile of this issue amongst our residents locally, and to get it onto the front page of the Herald. And I think she is to be, and I know that she has been, I think even today, has been on national television making the case for safer streets and for action to be taken. I think she's to be commended for the work that she's done there. And there's clearly a councillor in the making there, and a Fojtik dynasty to come. I would like to thank Councillor Fojtik for the positive manner in which he has approached the amendment wording that I put to him, and also to thank Councillor Rock for his positive contribution and intervention. As other members have said, this is a multifaceted challenge that we face, but we do need as an authority to do everything that we can to ensure that our streets are safe, and this motion is the beginning of that journey, in that it calls for integrated work with other partner agencies. It does particularly require certain key actions, and I have no doubt that members will be looking for some mechanism by which we can review and take this further forward. And I suspect this is something that could and should, subject to Councillor O'Donnell's view, find its way onto the forward work programme for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee to look at progress. So with all of that, and with thanks to Councillor Fojtik and Councillor Alcock and Councillor Rock, I think I would commend this amended version motion to all members, and I hope that every single member left in the room can get behind and vote for this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Pemberton. Councillor Shenton, you're next in my list.
Thank you, Chairman. A very quick one. I agree wholeheartedly with what Councillor Pemberton has just said. I would also add that as Councillor Junid and Councillor Bromwich have already said, is that this is the start of a journey, obviously, because the solutions to this particular problem, or the suggestions, have been kicking around for about 60 years. If we go back to 1961, urbanist Jane Jacobs actually raised a lot of the issues that we're talking about back in 1961. And more recently, the the Sunday Times raised this on the 14th. And one of the other key parts is to make our streets active streets, and that means that, or activated spaces. That means that they're well used but not dominated by static groups. And that seems to be a theme that runs through a number of other organisations as well. But in addition, we have to look at things like clear sight lines, pedestrian priority as well. So it is a bigger issue, and I think it quite obviously it does warrant further discussion in the future. But I think it's a good amendment, a good proposal, and I wholeheartedly support this. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Shenton. Councillor Cleeve is next on my list. Councillor Cleeve.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate this is obviously an emotive issue for different areas of the district. I appreciate that there's rural areas that don't want the lights back on, and I understand that. However, having spoken to many of my residents in Hathaway Ward, while a few of them would like them to stay off, the majority of them do want the lights back on. Safer streets is not the only issue about why we should turn the lights back on. One resident has told me that she works as a district nurse on the emergency response team and has lost count of the number of times she's been lost in her car looking for a house name or a door number. She's been out with really vulnerable people waiting for ambulances, with relatives of patients, and even giving CPR when the lights have gone out. As an ex-first responder, I've been there myself. Her night shifts finish at midnight, but as with most medical staff, we know they rarely finish on time. The emergency services are under a lot of stress and strain, so having the lights on at night even help them in a certain amount, it will definitely help with the issue. Therefore, as a representative of my residents, I have to stand by their wishes. So I'm in favour of the lights going back on in my ward, but also, as has already been said, looking at the reasons behind this rising crime and antisocial behaviour and seeing if we can do something about that as well. So I'm happy to support this motion as amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cleave. Councillor Crump, and then I've got Councillor Rock, who's been able to rejoin us. Councillor Crump.
Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Obviously, I was extremely shocked to hear about the death of Sarah Everard, and obviously my thoughts and condolences go to her family and friends. I agree, it is a multi-agency, multi-option approach is needed, and I certainly fully endorse a bid to the Safer Streets Fund. At the county, I've got community safety as part of my portfolio holder, and at the county, we've got a group called Violence Against Women and Girls. It's doing great work, and lots of things are coming out from that we need to learn from. But what I would like to mention, and obviously I'm a middle-aged man, so apologies if I am making assumptions, but what I would like to mention is that we need to champion respect for women and girls. We've all got a role to play in this: counsellors, schools, parents, guardians, peers, role models, etc. And I think if that respect was there, hopefully we'll see some improvement as well. Like in all things in life, respect costs nothing. So I fully endorse this motion, and hopefully, please, everybody show each other a lot more respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crump. Councillor Rock, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I start off by, as others have done, thanking, well, I suppose the project family for bringing this item forward. And I particularly pick out some of the things other councillors have said, which generally speaking, I agree with all of it. Councillor June had summed up very well. What Councillor Crump, I absolutely agree with what's just been said. And I would also thank everybody. Darren and myself have had particular conversations, and I think we've massaged the words, if I can put it like that, to produce something that's a very good motion. What I would just guard against with this fear of crime, I think is probably a real thing that we need to combat more than actual crime. Obviously, as Andy has said, our hearts go out to anybody that's been the victim of any violence in this way. However, turning the lights on does not automatically make us safer. In fact, the research data perversely goes against natural expectations, and in fact, particularly in the case of antisocial behaviour bizarrely can be made worse by lighting. So we have to bear in mind it is a complex issue. It needs the research which this motion brings forward. So I think we all should support it. We're not sending a message that turning the lights on automatically makes everything all right. As Andy has just said, it's a much wider problem, and we need to address attitudes of certain people, and we do need to bear in mind that most people that are involved in these crimes, it's nothing to do with street lighting, it's assaults against women, people that they know, and sad that it is. How we're going to tackle that, we're never going to fix it. We can only do what we can do. Thank you very much indeed for everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Rock. Councillor Parry, perhaps you're going to conclude and wind up this this debate, as I don't have any speakers after you currently indicating. Councillor Parry.
Thank you, Chairman. And I just wanted to really pay my respect to certainly Chloe for sort of bringing such an important issue by starting this petition. And I agree with all the speakers that have gone before me and what they've said. And I think this has been fantastic debate. I certainly think OSC are going to have their work cut out with all these particular motions and also projects to look at. And I think one of the most important thing from a district perspective is that it's not a one size fits all. We're not like Warwick District, which is very concentrated. We have huge swathes of rural villages, and I've got a mixed ward where I've got Wellsbourne village